So now to the main point, and while you're all here today, this year we have 6 candidates running, as you can see, for seat 1 for the City Commission. And I'm not going to read each of their bios because I want them to give them an opportunity to tell you a little bit about themselves and why they are running for office. But as you can see, we have everyone sitting in alphabetical order. So this morning we have Nikki Beckett, Elizabeth Davis, Joey Hilliard, James Hogan, Tracey Mercer, and of course, William Twyford. So please give a round of applause for all 6 of our candidates. Okay, so first question. And we will start with you, Nikki, but I promise we won't start with you every single time, to be fair. So we will start with your opening statements. If you can, in your opening statement, please address what personal or work experience do you feel qualifies you to represent the citizens of the City Commission, and how does this differentiate you from the other commissioners or candidates?
Well, thank you, Katie. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming out this morning at the crack of dawn to see all of us. My name is Nikki Beckett. I am lucky enough to be born and raised in this beautiful city. I'm a first-generation Winterhaven kid, and I thank you, Dad, for moving me here. I am running for City Commission because I'd love to advocate for the cleanup of our lakes. I really see them as an important part of our economy, as well as a great way to bring people to the area for environmental purposes. I'd also like to encourage a strong support of our first responders within our community, because without strong first responders, we can't create a strong community as a whole. I'd also like to see our city as a whole become more of a multi-generational city where our students want to stay here. I know many of you are probably from here, and throughout your high school time, you heard everybody say they want to leave and never come back, and that was not me. I wanted to stay. I went to Polk State College. I made every excuse to stay in Winterhaven, and I'm glad I did, and I'm glad that a lot of my friends have come back, and for those who left, I hope they're finding great lives, but I know Winterhaven can offer them so much more. And as far as Katie's question for what differentiates me, I was lucky enough in 2011 to be chosen to play for the Junior National USA softball team in Germany. And during my time in Germany, we got to a tournament in just outside of Deggendorf, and our opposing team was Bavaria, and they didn't have enough players, which means they have to forfeit. So I said, I'll play for them. Just put me over, put me in their uniform, let's keep the tournament going. We lost. I lost to America. But there was only one girl on the team that spoke English. So,
finish your thought.
Okay. There was only one girl on the team that spoke English. So I think that shows that I can work with anyone, no matter what the barrier may be. So, thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Good morning. Excuse me. I'm Elizabeth Davis. I'm a local attorney, mom, and small business owner. Unlike many people at the table, I did not grow up in Winterhaven. I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, with a 2-year detour to Central America and Panama City, Panama. Sorry, remember I have to eat the mic. I spent time in Panama, and throughout my time growing up in Alabama, my father was a civil servant. I grew up developing a love of public service. In fact, all my education was geared toward going into public service, either on the state level or the international level, studying international law. I interned for Congress after law school. I did an externship for the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in Mexico during law school. I did legislative clinics during law school. This was what my career was going to be. And then I decided to have a family. So like many of us, some of our dreams got put on hold for our families. But I did continue to practice law. In fact, I've been practicing law and I've been a mediator and collaborative attorney in Florida for 17 years. I came to Winterhaven, fell in love with it, felt like home. I immediately moved my family here. I relocated my practice. And I've spent most of the last 9 years that we've been in Winterhaven getting to know Winterhaven and its needs through volunteering, either through my firm, through the Junior League, participating in the chamber. I've been in, I'm saying a lot, Leadership Winterhaven, Leadership Hull. I've been served on the Planning Commission. And I get into the classrooms, for those classrooms that are interested, through the Justice Teaching Program, going in and teaching kids about the legal system, and for those classrooms interested, doing mock trials and model legislatures, trying to instill in the next generation a sense of civic duty. Now that my family's matured, I am able to follow my dream and follow my own advice. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Joey Hilliard. I'm a native of Winterhaven, graduate of Winterhaven High School, and so far I've been in education as a teacher of students with disabilities for about almost 20 years. And to give you relevant achievements in my past, I was the 1989 Florida American Legion Boy State Governor. In 1993 and 94, I was elected FAMU Student Body President, and I oversaw a budget of about $2.5 million and over 36 agencies. In 1991, I entered in the White House under President George H.W. Bush administration. In 1995, I was an intern in U.S. Senator Edward Kennedy's office. In 1993, I rallied a protest and for the support of the FAMU FSU College of Engineering as student body president. In 1994, I marched with community leaders in the city of Tallahassee to support the opening of FAMU's College of Law. In 1993, I signed a contract with Caltran, Tallahassee's transit authority, to produce FAMU's first free fare zones for the students as student body president. In 2007, I was a Cambridge Professional Who's Who certificate. In 2017, I'm a present to the present. I'm a member of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. 2017 to the present, I'm also a member of the Florence Villa Advisory Committee. And in 2018, I founded the Trinity Economic Development Group, LLC. I think some of these accomplishments have really positioned me to be a voice for the community, which is what I want to be. And I want to step up and serve the citizens of this great city. And I thank you.
Good morning. My name is James Hogan. I'm 60 years old. I grew up in Florenceville area. I attended the primary school and the elementary school there in the Florenceville area. I moved when I got ready to go to the 8th grade, my father moved to Dundee and I started to go to school in Haines City. Once I graduated, went off to school, I turned around and ended back up in Winterhaven. I've only had 2 jobs. My one job was I worked at the honey processing company in Lake Wales, and my second job was Polk County Sheriff's Office. I served 31 years there. One of the things that we at the Sheriff's Office that was big was having a strategy, strategic plan, long-term and short-term plans. And I believe that that's something that we here in Winterhaven could really put us ahead of the game. We should be able to look down the road and figure out with our growth and understand that we need to ensure that our infrastructure can support whatever growth that we do. The spread of economic success. I agree that we really have done a great job downtown with the success. I think that success can be broadened through some of the other areas of Winterhaven, and that's sort of my goal, is to try and be a part of that particular growth in Winterhaven. That's it. Thank you.
Good morning, I am Tracey Mercer, and I've been involved in local government, even in Winterhaven, numerous cities, and in Winterhaven. I am eager to represent you and seat 1 of the Winterhaven City Commission. I'm passionate about our community. I've been involved in it even to keep Winterhaven clean and beautiful. I've been in this community for over 20 years, I've been involved in Florida for over 40 years. Giving back to the community is part of who I am. And as I was talking to Bob, I was telling him I remember when we painted the women's club, the pink, or whatever color that people, we got some fussing about because of that color. But anyway, Winterhaven is where my heart is. And I want to do my part to keep Winterhaven as distinguished and as great and amazing place to live. I'm a former Lake Regions Lakes Management District Commissioner, and I spent like I said, most of my life working in local government. So I feel that this will give me the background and to make those decisions, those tough decisions. I've been in administration, budgets and finance, organizational operations and public service, public utilities, public works, all of that capital improvement programs, I've managed those. So I do have some background to help assist in making those tough decisions that we're going to be involved in for the future. I have an MBA in business administration. I have attended the local colleges, Warner Southern, which is, the name has changed. It used to be Warner Southern College, now it's Warner University. I have attended other colleges, and they're all local. They've been local to this area. I really am interested, like I said, in serving and meeting those needs for the city of Winterhaven.
Could you repeat the question? I'm Willie Twyford. I'm from here. I'm from Winterhaven. I've been here since I was a little kid. Went to all the local schools and graduated from Winterhaven High School in 1980, Vanderbilt University in 1984, Memphis State, was now University of Memphis Law School in 87, passed the bar in Tennessee in February, and passed the bar in July of that next year. For Florida bar, came right back home. Worked for approximately 20 years with the Public Defender's Office and also with the Regional Counsel's Office. And then I left there, went out into private practice, doing general type things. I don't do tax and I don't do patent law, but pretty much everything else I'll have a look at and give it a shot. And also I am a city commissioner. Ran 4 years ago. The reason I ran back then was because I saw things that happened that I didn't agree with as far as the direction the city was going, and I thought I needed to step in and try to help correct that. I think we've made great strides since then, and even the building we're in here today, the city of Winterhaven has helped put together, I think, the air conditioning system. We gave money for that. And if you look at all the things that we've done, all the projects we've done for the cities, it's become a better place since I've been in office. I want to continue that. I'm familiar with all the projects that we're going on now and in the future. Water is really important to us, and we're going to try to do the best we can to be a leader in having sustainable water. There's many other projects. I brought the budget books as well to go over things if you want to get into detail about them. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm running again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates. So the first question we will start with this morning, which I will open up to all of you, is what do you believe is the greatest opportunity facing Winterhaven? And we will start at the other end, since you had to wait till the very end on that last one. So if you would like to start, Commissioner Twyford, if you would like to start with what do you believe is the greatest opportunity facing Winterhaven?
Well, the greatest opportunity, I think, facing Winterhaven going forward is going to be our One Water plan that we have and getting a sustainable source of water, and the projects we have in the pipeline for that. We've retained a company called Black & Veatch. They're going to go ahead and do a study and tell us what we need to have for our sustainable water plan in the future. I'm interested in the wastewater treatment that generates power, so we can get some type of benefit besides the treatment of our wastewater. Eventually, we may have to turning wastewater into potable water, and that's one of the things that we have to look forward to as well. Swift mud determines how much water we can pull out of the ground, and surface waters as well. So we need to keep that in mind, and that's what the Polk Water Cooperative is being set up for as well, to help us with the sustainable water plan. But the Polk Water Cooperative doesn't guarantee us any water at all. So we need to look at our own situation. On our legislative agenda, we're trying to buy some property to recharge the aquifer and to recharge areas where the wetlands have gone dry. And that's important to me as well. I mean, I grew up here on the lakes, and the lakes were, they were a lot cleaner back then. And I remember when I was a kid, I was part of the Save Our Lakes, SOL. And this was probably in the 70s, we went around cleaning up garbage and trash out of the lakes, and that keeps going on. But water is important, and also the fiber industry that we have. Companies and businesses and families, they want to have a reliable source of internet, and that's part of what we're doing here. We're going to have to compete still with the Orlandos and Tampas for these companies. And Winterhaven is a great place. The infrastructure is already in place, and we're continuing to put on more infrastructure. But that's things that are important to me, and I think that's where we're going.
Thank you. Tracey?
I would say one of the most outstanding thing is to have sustainable growth, smart and sustainable growth, and that pretty much has created with Florida, the state of Florida, and in Winterhaven, the water issue. And I agree with Commissioner Twyford that the One Water is a very good approach that the city has and has taken in this. I have dealt in the utilities industry for a while now, and the alternate water supply that the PRWC is going to be providing for the growing population in this area. Not only us, but 14 other cities in the county will be cooperatively working together in order to have sustainable water for the future. An example of this is when I was in Clearwater, we had what we called an integrated water management strategy, and in that there was, that's an engineering word, so we kind of called it the future of our water. And one of the things that we did was to try to conserve. We had 5 points: conserve as much water as we can, preserve drinking water for drinking water, protect our natural environment, and ours was produce more locally, and this was probably 13 years ago when we started that, and I happened to be the lucky one to roll it out, and then manage the rising cost of water. So with that plan, we did. We used reclaimed water in place of, for irrigation, so that as an alternate source of water, so that we had available drinking water. Again, that's going to be one of the major things that we're going to have to look at. I do have experience in dealing with that, but the thing is there's some decisions to be made, and the city of Winterhaven, I have to say, is working on it cooperatively, and that is really important.
James?
I believe the continued path of promoting Winterhaven as a destination. I think that is one of our opportunities to create growth, but through that growth, we need to be ensured that that growth be responsible. Meaning, we need to ensure that as we grow, we need to make sure that our infrastructure can support that growth. I think through those sports, things such as the field house is a great opportunity for the city of Winterhaven to bring in tourism. We have a really good relationship with Legoland. I believe that also is going to really help Winterhaven continue to grow. And I think those partnerships that we form with those particular areas is extremely important. As we grow and as we bring in businesses, I think we need to ensure that we can get significant investment from those organizations that are looking to come into Winterhaven. We need to be able to have significant investment in our infrastructure so that when we look down the line, when we look 10 years from now, as we move forward, we're not caught in a situation where our infrastructure can't support the growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Joey?
Thank you. The number one opportunity I feel facing Winterhaven is growth as well, both citizen and business growth. I would help the realization of this opportunity by supporting and promoting the efforts of the Winterhaven Chamber of Commerce, the Winterhaven Economic Development Council, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, the CRA Board, the Florenceville Advisory Committee, and the CRA Downtown Committee, the Citrus Connection, and the Florenceville CDC, in addition to joining forces with many other resources and agencies that will assist. As far as city investment, there will be opportunities for funding from the general budget, the CRA, and local partnerships. I think our growth is one of our number one opportunities. If we take advantage of it, we will produce a sustainable economy, and I think we really need to look hard over this next 10 years in terms of where we're going with the growth, and come up with a strategic plan and produce a plan of the future. We owe it to future generations to do this, to take the lead on making sure that the growth is under control. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Well, I agree. I think economic growth is our number one opportunity. The city's growing. We're seeing economic growth through tourism, through sports tourism, the integrated logistics center, and technology. I'm eager to see what the Smart Cities Advisory Committee comes up with for some alternatives and how to manage our growth, look at intermodal transportation. We have, with this growth, with this growth comes some challenges, but I think it's our best opportunity to address some of the challenges we already have. The continued growth, it's going to happen. That's our number one opportunity. We need to come up with a better plan on how to look at not just 10 years out, but 20, 30, 50.
Thank you. Nikki?
I'm sure you will all be very surprised by my answer when I say growth, as all my fellow candidates have. But when I say growth, I don't mean necessarily attracting new businesses and things. I mean growing the families we already have here. If we keep our students here, if we provide opportunities for the kids who are going through Winterhaven High School now and Polk State College, they will stay and they will have families, and that will be the growth that we want. We want more Winterhaven native kids who love this city as much as we all love this city. Attracting new businesses is great, and I do see that as a big part of where we need to go with our city. And our downtown area has seen a big growth in new businesses with stuff as niche as the new confectionery downtown. These are great things, and I want to see us continue to attract positive growth, but also retaining the people we already have.
Thank you. I'd like to remind the audience that you have note cards on your table, so if you do have a question that you would like to be asked, please make sure that you write that legibly on your note card and wave it high in the air proudly so Jennifer can see that you have that. So, one question that I'm going to kind of pull out from some of your answers, and I'm going to address it first to James, but if anyone else would like to chime in after that, please do. James, you mentioned, obviously everyone mentioned growth, as we can see, but you mentioned making sure that that economic opportunity touches all neighborhoods in Winterhaven and in the city of Winterhaven. Could you speak to if you've thought of any ways that we can make that happen, or how do we spread the, we're downtown, a lot of people talked about the vibrancy of downtown. How do we make that spread to all of our neighborhoods in the Winterhaven community?
Well, I believe that as a city, we really have to engage with those communities and be able to get those communities on board with and understand that it is possible and believe that it's possible. There's some areas out in our cities that are somewhat blighted for no reason that I can say. Now, specifically when we talk about the First Street corridor down through Florence Villa. Years ago, there was roadway put in there. There was a lot of property that was partially cut in half almost. And ever since those things, they have not been able to recover. There's not really been significant investment in that area, in my opinion. I do know that that's partly because of I think the communications from the city and with the actual citizens of that area. We really got to be able to get them together along and really make, there's going to be some sacrifices, on both sides in order to make this happen, but the city of Winterhaven will be better for it.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address that question?
I think it starts with collaboration, conversation, dialogue, as far as the downtown CRA, the Florence Villa CRA. Those are avenues in which we can start a dialogue on how to bridge the economic gap, because the tax base in Florence Villa is definitely not where it should be. And to spread the businesses, there needs to be incentives to as well, like I would say in waiving impact fees for businesses to come in and establish themselves in the Florence Villa area. There needs to be that type of dialogue. Because a lot of people ask, why should I start a business, or what would make me start a business in Florence Villa? So we should address that. It benefits us all. It benefits us all when we work together and to produce communities that are successful. We're not hurting our cities. We're making them better, especially with diversity. Diversity is a strength. So anytime you can get together and collaborate, I think that would be a great start. Even if we had to develop some white papers, do a white paper study on how we can produce a more solid business structure for the northeast sector of town. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone, Tracy?
I just wanted to say sometimes we got to look at the right economic growth and what fits. And so what are we looking for? We need to know that. And like you said, surveys or something like that, that we can gain this knowledge and see what fits. What fits in one neighborhood may not fit in another neighborhood. And then we need to find the right natural partners. Is it education, and development, or is it the arts? And if we determine what we're looking for, are we looking for medical, are we looking for technology, connected people to technology and technology to people, and then we need to look at some policies. Does our comprehensive plan, designate certain things in certain areas? And maybe that's, it's limited by the comprehensive plan. We need to look at all of that and just, kind of see, and like you said, we need to develop what we need in those neighborhoods.
Great, thank you. Questions?
So, on this point, I think attracting businesses is great, but historically, our city is an entrepreneurial city. Publix was started right here in our downtown by a 23-year-old man, and I think that's a great message to send to our citizens, that anyone can start a business here. And the best way that our city can help that is by throwing up the least amount of roadblocks as possible when a new business proposes that they want to come into town, whether that be a small business started by someone locally or whether that be by a corporation. And like Tracy said, make sure that the business fits the section of town in which it is being started.
Very good. Thank you. We're obviously all looking forward. So we're looking forward to the next 4 years, and really as a community, we're looking at the next 10 years, the next 20 years, with the One Water Plan beyond 50 years. But each one of you is, as I said earlier, very invested and engaged in what is happening in our community already. So I'm going to ask this question, this one kind of looking past question and how you would bring it forward question. What decision over the last 4 years that our current city commission has made do you, one, most agree with, and two, most disagree with, and why? So we will start, not to start with kind of a hard question in the middle, but we'll start in the middle this time. So we'll start with Joey. We'll start with you on that question, and then move down this way and then down that way.
Okay, as far as the last 2 years, I had some concerns with the city's decision to do away with the automatic 2.5% increase on utility rates. And primarily because that produced extra funds that would cause the city to have extra resources available to fix utilities and the utility infrastructure. So, I don't necessarily think that that was well thought through because you've got to have something in place, and that's one of the number one reasons why I think public works is probably an area that I need to do more research in, but that definitely had an impact on our communities. As far as what I agree with, the city's decision to build the Lake Maud football complex and the new skate park are among the top that I agree with, and primarily because they put things in place for our youth and their families. So it's positioning the city to invest in communities. I think that's a good start. That's a good starting place for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth, would you like to comment on this question?
Certainly. What that I agree with?
What you most agreed with and then potentially disagreed with, and why?
So probably the decision I agree with most is the recent decision to at least start tackling affordable housing. It is a major issue for our community, whether we like it or not. Recent studies show 55% of the Winterhaven, Auburndale households have trouble making ends meet. They either live below the poverty line or are living paycheck to paycheck. And we have a 95% occupancy rate. So what we're having is people who don't make above $28 an hour having to look for housing outside of the city limits. And many of them are having to rely on our public transportation system. We don't want to lose our residents. So we need to look at what can be done for affordable housing. So I think that's probably the best decision that's been made. It needs to be private partnerships, looking at incentives and what grants are possible. What do I disagree with? Most likely the budgets. In looking at it, I don't think we've done enough in terms of affordable housing. In talking to people in the community, we seem to focus on those who are most vocal rather than most in need in our community, and it's because that's who's in front of our commission. I'm in favor of a lot of the community associations being formed to give a voice and bring things forward, because I think we're missing a lot of our need. I also think that we aren't staying competitive in terms of salaries for our employees. And in order to maintain growth, we need to have our housing issue in hand, and we need to maintain the best and brightest in our field in order to grow our city and move forward.
Thank you. Nikki?
So as far as a decision by the commission that I agree with, I would say the Southwest Complex, the field house, is a great addition to our city. That facility has been stagnant for a long time, and I feel that it's been a topic of discussion for a majority of my life since the Indians have left our community. And I'm glad to see that we're moving forward with rejuvenating that section of town. As far as something that I disagree with, I don't feel that judging past commissions on decisions that they made is beneficial. I don't see negativity as helping us move forward as a community. can't say that I would make the same decision that they have made, but I can't think of anything in particular that I would bring up at this time.
Okay, thank you. William, Commissioner Twyford.
Man, that's a big question. I made a lot of decisions.
2 minutes, Willie, 2
Yeah, I
minutes.
know. I've made a lot of decisions since I've been a commissioner. So the one I most agree with would have to be the hiring of Mike Herr. Without him, we wouldn't have the city we have today. And it's a big win for us. I mean, he's got great experience. He has great leadership qualities. He's organized. He gets things done. And he's got us going in the right direction. I don't want to rock that boat or get that train off the rails. I mean, Mike Herr is the person the decision I'm most proud of. The decision I'm the least proud that the city's made, I don't want to get negative, but keeping the tax rate at 6.79 mil. There's better ways we could have allocated our money. I don't disagree with the ideas that the city manager has, and I don't disagree with how the money is being allocated for almost everything in the budget. I mean, it's not a situation where we're fighting like cats and dogs up there. But some of the things that we have money, we have to have the source of money. We have to have the revenue. And the CRA, the downtown CRA, I'll talk about it because I've talked about it before. Primarily, most of that money has been spent on the downtown core. And the downtown core is great. I'm 100% behind the impetus of the downtown core and what we're doing with the downtown core. But the CRAs by statute are supposed to address blight. So you look for that money to go ahead and eliminate the blight. And we've got blight in other areas that are within the downtown CRA that need to be addressed. And so that's what, the allocation of that money. I mean, if you know the history of our CRA, it's got a 30-year run. And initially the pavers that came in, I think it was around $4 million back when the first initial steps were taken to improve the downtown. And I'm sorry, but that's it, sorry.
Thank you. Tracey, would you like to comment on this question?
Yes, I will say there's a lot of things that Winterhaven has done right. There's been a lot of projects. Whoever thought that Winterhaven would need a parking garage? There's a wonderful project, the South Central Park, 7th Street, also the One Water plan, master plan. The other side of that is, I guess, when you talk about the most disagreed with over the past 4 years, it was removing the 2.5% from the utilities. When you think of all the growth that you're having, and you're tying in new lines to the infrastructure that may not be able to handle that new growth. So that would have given you some availability of funds to replace. You have different types of pipes out there that some of them need to be replaced and should have been replaced a long time ago. But we're still going to be dealing with that without that funds to do that. And when you start replacing those lines that have been there for more than 50 years, and you start replacing some of those, it's going to be very expensive. So I feel that we need to keep that fund. You never know when you're going to have a disaster, an emergency. Your infrastructure and utilities, it's not often seen, it's not visible. You don't often know the condition of it. So it's hard to make those decisions, and it costs a lot of money, whether it's replacement of the wastewater plants, whether it's additions to the water plants. It's expensive. We talk millions, not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Until your toilet doesn't flush, and then it becomes the most important part of city government.
Yeah.
So, very good.
That's right. Your faucet broke this morning, nobody thinks about it. If you flushed your toilet and it went away, nobody thinks about that. But you got miles and miles of line underground. So it's going to be a big expense if we ever have to do that in an emergency situation.
Thank you. James?
We should have planned improvements.
I agree with Nikki in reference to the field house. I think that is. I believe that's one of our greatest, or going to be one of our greatest opportunities, because the ability to bring in sporting events to the city is going to enhance greatly, from an economic standpoint, just being able to have leagues that will run through there, with the ability to dealing with the Lakeland Magic. Those are all great things. I also agree with Joey in reference to the Lake Malt Recreation Complex. It's a great facility. We have leagues that come in there to play, and they're amazed that the city of Winterhaven was able to put such a facility in there. It's a really good facility. As far as decisions that I most disagree with, it's not really a decision. The inability of the commission to really come to a consensus during the voting. It just seems as though a lot of the votes that are taken are just 3-2, or there's just not really them as a group coming together and realizing that my thoughts may not be the best, or just to get a good understanding of why you should move forward or not move forward. So it's just I think we should have much more consensus, and therefore the community can have more confidence, in my opinion anyway, in the commission and the way that it's going.
Thank you very much. A reminder, if you have any audience questions, please hold them up and Jen will collect those. So I've received a couple so far, so I'm going to start with those. One question is specifically for Commissioner Twyford, and I'm going to read this one just to make sure that I get it right. So you reference in your campaign literature that started to go out that successful pension reform is something that you mentioned in your campaign literature. However, since this wasn't acted, 100 employees have quit each year, and the city currently has 59 open unfilled full-time positions. You also voted against the property tax increase, which passed and allowed the city to give raises for the first time in years. What do you believe, or do you see a correlation between the dependable defined benefit plan, competitive pay, and employee retention?
Well, when I first came on the commission, what had happened with the pension, I think I've sort of gone over this many, many times. Each city employee was making, that was in the pension plan, that was vested in the pension plan, 3% per year of employment. I've worked for the state of Florida for 20 years, and most of the employees there, and as the teachers as well, they get 1.6% per year. Ideally, if you have, and plus the city pays Social Security, and that's another benefit that the employees were getting. That pension plan, when I first came on board, had an unfunded actuarial liability of over $20 million. What that means is the normal cost of the pension that we put in, the city put in, was around $1.2 million. On top of that, the city was paying over $3 million to catch up on the deficit in the pension fund. That's a continuing problem over and over and over. We simply just couldn't afford it. But what we were doing, and they talked about these 2.5% utility increases that were coming in, we were raiding the utility fund. The utility fund was not going to pay for infrastructure. It was not going to pay for sewage treatment or water purification or anything like that. It was going to pay bits and pieces of those projects. But I have the numbers, and the numbers come from our CAFR, and that what was going on, each year the CAFR is a report that the city puts out about where our money goes and what we're doing. In 2010, we took $3 million out of the utility fund. In 2016, we took $11 million out of the utility fund. In the total, over the course of 4 years, we've been taking out millions and millions of dollars. So what happened? I mean, I don't know. It's not an easy question. Why people leave? We're a government agency. People leave because they can make more money outside of our agency. People retire. This is not, Winterhaven is not a job provider. Winterhaven is a services provider. So that's what I would say about that. And as far as benefit packages, things are running well. If people, I can't make people stay here. If they like to work here and they like the city, they like the cost of living that we have here, that's fine. You're going to get paid more in Tampa and Orlando, but you're going to put up with Tampa or Orlando. I like it here. I think we're doing a great job.
Thank you. Another audience question that has been submitted, and this one is to Tracey. Tracey, are you worried about at all, so you work for the city of Haines City, are you worried at all about any potential conflict of interest, or how do you view any potential conflict of interest if you were serving as an elected official in Winterhaven with your duties in Haines City?
I'm not worried about any because I did call the state, and the state said that there isn't any conflict with me working there. I retired, and so I am helping out Haines City currently. I don't plan to stay there forever, as Derek knows. So I came in to help to get them up and going, hire somebody, and see that they're on the right track, and then I'm out. I don't feel that way. I feel I have my own integrity. I have integrity, to both cities. I would practice that, and people that know me know that I function from a point of integrity. So if they want to talk to me about it afterwards, I would gladly, talk to them about it.
Thank you, Tracey. An audience question, and anyone, this is posed to anyone. In fact, it might be good for everyone to answer it if you so wish. What do you believe is the most important vote that the commission takes each year, and why? And we'll start, Nikki, if you would like to start.
I think probably the most important vote each year is the budget. You're talking about, as we've discussed previously, possible pay increases for our staff who work very hard and deserve to have competitive rates. And you're talking about taxpayer dollars, so that would be your most important vote of the year.
Great.
It's me. I'd have to agree. I think it's the budget. That's where we lay out what our priorities are for the next year, where we're focusing our attention and our monies. That is the most important thing.
Great, thank you. John?
I agree. I think the budget is definitely important. Just a while ago, the city increased its millage from 5.79 mils to 6.79 mils. This increase allowed the city to move forward with a lot of new projects positioned for the community, for infrastructure and quality of life. They're definitely, the vote for the budget is so important because it determines what type of projects the city is going to be able to do. Just like we talked about the field house, we talked about the Lake Maud project, we also talked about a little bit about the skate park and how the city is growing and using smart growth. So I think that the budget definitely is important when you think about what the city is going to be able to do in terms of providing a good quality of life for its citizens.
James?
I agree. I most definitely agree that it's the budget. One of the things that I think the city does do is, the workshops and all those type of things leading up to the budget vote. But, getting that information out to the citizens and ensuring that they understand, why you are, if you're increasing something, and so that they can see that the benefit. And I think if we can communicate a little better, reference to the budget, that we can get a lot more cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracey?
Definitely the budget. As everyone has said, it gives you the funding, it gives you the forecast, the picture. Your capital improvements program is included in that versus infrastructure and public spaces that we're invested in. So I definitely say the budget.
the budget. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's the only big decision that encompasses everything that we're going to do the next year. As far as raising millage, these projects were already in the pipeline before the millage was raised. These commitments were made. The current debt that the city is going to be servicing now is around $99 million. So we've got to come up with revenue sources. We've got to be efficient, and we've got to do a better job from here on out. And I'm ready to do that.
Thank you. Another audience questions, and this question comes up a lot. Is it directly under the purview of the City Commission? So I will caveat that. But our educational system does come up a lot as a question, and some people think the City Commission has more control over it than we might have. But I pose this question to you. Even though you don't control the school system's budget, you can't make decisions directly for the school district. What do you think that the City Commission, the city government can do to support the public education system in our area and the efforts of Superintendent Byrd and the many nonprofits that are working to improve and enhance education in our area? And I will open that up to whoever would like to answer that question. Maybe let's start with Joey, since you actually work in the school system, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you, Katie. As far as my platform, one of my platform issues is youth and education. In terms of investments, in terms of scholarships, and after-school programs. We can produce after-school programs to help our kids, and not a few, but we can develop maybe 2 or 3, and there are a lot of individuals available to write grants. So I think if we partner up with the right team, whether it be with the churches or whether it be with business institutions, I think that we can come up with after-school programs, because if you look at how our kids struggles at times in school, and you look at the state exams, there's definitely a need for more programs. I mean, just 1 or 2 is not going to cut it. There are more children out there that need assistance, and we can provide that for them. And the city can start that initiative with after-school programs and investments. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address that question? Elizabeth, and then to William.
I agree. The county education program is not the purview of the city. However, the city needs students who are educated to fill the job opportunities that are coming and our future needs. So it behooves the city to invest in extracurricular programs. I know we do things through the library, opening up to students. We need to look into possibly doing more. The city has donated or made allocations in the budget to certain nonprofits and after-school programs. We can continue to look forward, moving forward that way. There are discussions that we need to look into about whether or not broadband is something we look at to make sure all students have access to the internet for studying. There are things the city can do to encourage education and make sure that we have upcoming trained, well-educated future employees and workers in the city.
Thank you. William?
Yes, the city of Winterhaven had a night that we decided how to distribute $400,000 to nonprofits and charitable organizations. A big chunk of that money went to the Boys and Girls Club here in Winterhaven. They have after-school programs. They're right across the street from Garner Elementary that used to be an F school. The city was participating in that. We do participate, we do help, but there's only so much we can do, and the other part of it is funding. We just can't take tax money and give our tax money over to the public school system. I wish we could, but that's not how it works. We need the money to help the city and to help our infrastructure and to help pay our employees and do the things that a city does. Obviously, people, and it's been told to me as well, developers that I've talked to, they said this is a great place, this is all fun, this is all nice, but what are the schools? What do you do about the schools? Where do your kids go to school? I was fortunate. My kids went to Brigham, they went to Winterhaven High School, they went to the Jewett, the pre-IB program through there, and they've done well. I have a son going to Yale, I have a son going to FSU, and but I'm really one of the lucky ones. I understand that. But that's, the PEP program also is a program that anybody can get involved in and get organized and try to help out. My son taught tutoring in Florenceville at the facility down there at PEP for 200 hours. He got credit for that, for doing that as well. So there's only so much that we can do. I wish we could do more, but that's how it is.
Would anyone else, James?
I'd just like to touch on one of the things that Elizabeth said, reference to the broadband. One of the things that I see through dealing with our athletic programs and talking to those kids, in a lot of situations, they're not able to get online to assist with subjects that they actually have in school, whether it's homework and those type of things. So looking at that as assisting the school board would be a great thing if we were able to do that.
And I want to make sure that I kind of touch on the spirit of the question as well. So one of the parts of the question was regarding infrastructure for our schools. And of course, you don't control the PICO budget for the school system, obviously. One thing that the city of Winterhaven did do was sign on to a resolution that Polk Vision put forward in terms of committing to look at sidewalks around our school and make sure that our schools have safe routes to schools, is the catchphrase, safe route to schools. When you think of Inwood is almost 100%, if not a 0.5% not walking students, kids that walk from the area. It's one of our true community schools in terms of kids that go there. So looking at making sure that we're improving infrastructure in the areas we do control is one of those things. Another part of that question is, and I actually am just learning more about this serving on the tax oversight committee for the school district. Thankfully, Winterhaven has a lot of projects in their 10-year plan, which is a great thing in terms of new schools getting built in the Winterhaven community, improvements to Westwood, getting a gymnasium, and Denison's right after Westwood, getting a gymnasium. So those are important things. But one thing that happens a lot that you'll be asked to vote on as a city commissioner is new residential developments. And the school district can't actually, as long as there is capacity in Polk County Public Schools, they can't say, no, you can't build that development because we don't have capacity at the school that's next door. As long as there's capacity at a school within proximity of the new development. How would you handle that? And not everyone has to answer this question, but how would you handle that as we continue to have more and more single-family permits or multifamily permits coming before the commission, and answer that question of your constituents on, but what about school capacity, and are we considering that when we're looking at these projects? I will allow anybody that wants to tackle that one can tackle that one. Commissioner Twyford, you're grabbing the mic first.
I guess I'll go ahead. I think the question was about sidewalks. Is that what it is? And then,
well, that was just more informational, that the city is already looking at sidewalks and infrastructure around the schools. The true intent is, how is the infrastructure, as we continue to approve single-family home residential developments and things of that nature, is that something that the commission takes into consideration when approving developments or working with the developer? If we want the development, how do we work with the developer on that?
well, I mean, obviously we want to have complete streets everywhere if we can, sidewalks and proper streets and what have you. And it's in our budget, and it's been in our budget. Sidewalk is getting the treatment of, let's see, neighborhood sidewalks, 30,000 in 19, 75,000 for the years 20, 21, 22, and 23. That's in our plan. So we're trying to put those sidewalks into what we already have. New development, we can't, the thing about development, like some people don't understand, we can't turn somebody down for a development if, just because we don't like that it's too crowded or something for the schools. If the schools have capacity, then we can't say we're turning it down because the schools are not there or overcrowded or something like that. Because if we turn somebody down, then they can turn around and sue us and they can get attorney fees. And that can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the decisions that we make, we that's in the front of our minds, in the back of our mind. Is like, are we treating this person right that wants to put in a development? And yeah, we encourage the sidewalks in our zoning, and we encourage the sidewalks and everything that we're doing going forward.
Thank you. We'll have one other comment on this one. Tracy?
As far as the question you're asking, normally in plans reviews, we also look for capacity, that we currently can provide the water and the infrastructure for the sewer. We have permitted capacities. We also ask those of, what schools are they going to attend or look at, those schools in the area, just so that we know where those are, and some of the reviews that I've been in. So I don't know if that's a continuous question or if it was just in the reviews, but usually you do want to know, since there are some areas and some cities that don't have that school capacity and are having to build new schools to accommodate that growth.
Thank you. One specific question I want to make sure that's not touched on in anything else we've talked about today, and we'll still have this question and then we'll do closing comments. Approximately 20 years ago, Winterhaven invested in establishing 4 historic districts. To date, only the downtown district has developed incentives to promote preservation. Think Main Street facade grants, for example. Would you support the development of incentives that would encourage preservation of historic structures in all bona fide historic districts? Joe, you're grabbing the mic first. You can go ahead and go.
Thank you, Katie. Definitely, I would support. I would throw my support. And one of the things, looking at. Could you repeat the question, Katie?
Sure. So several years ago, 20 years ago, Winterhaven established 4 historic districts. So far, only the downtown district has developed an incentive to promote preservation. And this could probably be a 2-part question, because it kind of ties in with what James was saying earlier about incentivizing for development in various neighborhoods. So the specific question is, would you support or encourage incentives of historic structures in all bona fide historic districts? But kind of a 2-part question to that is incentives in all of our neighborhoods. Obviously there's cost associated with the word incentive, and maybe there's various things to incentives, but how would you look at incentives in redevelopment and preservation of the older neighborhoods in the city of Winterhaven?
Definitely. As a member of the Florence Villa Advisory Committee to the CRA Board, some of the things we've been looking at include preservation, infrastructure, development, and redevelopment in areas that have sufficient blight. I think one of the things we've got to really take a stance on is we're running out of time with CRA funds. There's a national deadline, and we've got about 10 more years of CRA funding. So we've got to sit down and make some hard decisions about what we're going to preserve, and how we can assign that money to allocate that money, those funds, to preserve the neighborhoods in certain areas. I think one of the interesting things about Florence Villa is there are a lot of historic areas in Florence Villa. And there's a great opportunity for us to use some of that CRA funding in terms of preservation. So if you ever ride through on Avenue O, there used to be a training school there, not very close to the Lake Maud facility that's there now, the football complex. And so I think we really have to have a sense of urgency, because like I was saying, with the funding expiring, and with us only having 30 years, not only, but having 30 years to actually spend that CRA money in blighted areas. Downtown has done an excellent job. I think, just like we always say, Katie, when I talk with you, we need to focus on these last 10 years on making sure that we preserve Florence Villa.
Great, thank you. Would anyone else like to address that question quickly? Nikki?
I think preserving historic areas of our city is extremely important. I think some other cities within Polk County have done a great job, and I'd like to see us move more in that direction. And like you said, Katie, incentives, there's a price tag to that. So obviously, it's looking at what's most cost effective for the city, what will help our citizens most. I do think, you know, Florence Villa is one of the first real neighborhoods of this city, and it would be great to see it rejuvenized and to have more life in that section of town. Amen. So I would like to see us as a city look at what we can do to bring back those historic areas.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move on to closing comments. And one, kind of the final audience question, I'm going to ask if it makes sense to weave it into your closing comments, which is, James had mentioned earlier about the importance of commissioners coming to consensus. So in your closing comment, if you could speak about, you know, just kind of tying together today's conversation and the importance of collaboration and consensus to you, whether you think it's important or not, or what kind of that says to the community. So Elizabeth, I have not started with you yet today. So if you would like to start with that question, and then we'll go down the line, and since Nikki had to start first, we'll let her go last today. So yeah, so Elizabeth, go ahead.
The importance of collaboration and consensus?
That and whatever you would like to say in closing.
Obviously, as I mentioned before, I'm a collaborative attorney. I believe in collaboration. You have to be willing to give on your opinion sometimes in order for the greater good and to hear the other side. I think it's not necessarily important to have a unanimous decision as it is to have the conversation, make sure all voices are heard and all perspectives are put in. But there's always a way forward. And that passion is necessary in our commission to find a way to find the solution, even if it's not exactly what I came to the table with expecting. I have a lot of experience doing that, and I've spent a lot of time going out and listening to everybody, and I know that a lot of our city feels that they're being ignored, and I think it's important that whoever's on our commission moving forward ensures that all corners of the community are listened to and represented. I'd like that opportunity.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Joey?
These are closing.
Closing comments, yes, sir.
As I stated earlier, I want to be a voice for our community. And there's so many different areas across town that we need to strengthen with diversity. I think in the next 10 years, Winterhaven can be a model city for smart growth with initiatives such as STEM programs, focus on partnerships with Polk State and Polytech University. We have an opportunity to strengthen our infrastructure, our workforce, and our technology. And as right now, the Chamber has started that with the Black Oak Creative Facility downtown. By creating these centers, there's an opportunity for businesses to come in and get the access to the technology that they need. And I see more of these centers coming up. You know, there could be centers in the northeast area of town. There could be centers all over. If we simply sit down and talk about how to support these areas and these initiatives. I see a roundtable discussion for business in Florence Villa, open to all and set in place to move the northeast section of our city into a dialogue concerning long and overdue changes to produce new jobs, commercial business expansion into that area, to strengthen the tax base. If we strengthen that tax base, then we can produce larger and new CRA projects before the close of the national CRA funding. You know, there's so much that we can do, but we have to, just like Mr. Coach Hogan said earlier, we have to sit down and draw consensus. Consensus comes with understanding one another. Once we begin to understand one another and we stop hiding agendas, personal agendas and personal motives, then we can get through all that. We've got to be transparent with one another. Once we do that, we can move forward.
Thank you, Joey. James?
Everything Joey just said. You know, I think the main thing with consensus is that the public can start to have confidence in the decisions that are being made, and not believing that there's always conflict on the board. It's not necessarily conflict on the board, but we just have an opportunity though to like you said, understand each other and be able to vote appropriately. As and also in closing, I just want to say some things. Presently I serve on the board of Polk Sheriff Charities as the vice president, and these are some of the reasons why I think that I could really be a voice for the citizens of Winterhaven. But I served on the Winterhaven Housing Authority, where we brought a troubled agency that was under HUD designated as a troubled agency. We brought it to a high performer. We've addressed some of the housing needs with the addition of Lakeside Terrace. We took back control of Palm Place. Now I didn't do this, we had workers and we had staff that did it, but I was part of the oversight. I'm part of a board of Seeds the Nation Mentorship Group, which is a group that are mentoring our young adults, well I say young adults, our teenagers, and trying to steer them in the correct direction. I mean, they really are our future, and we're trying to get them to make good decisions, and we got to get them early, because the decisions, after a certain point, they make those decisions, they can't come back from them, and so we're trying to get to them early, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Tracy?
Yes, part of my campaign commitment is to working together for our city, moving forward, doing things for the betterment of our community, either in partnership with the city or in private partnership, however we can accomplish those goals. I support transparent and efficient government and investing in our infrastructure and preserving our natural resources and the smart and sustainable growth. I think we have to do all of that. The next 10 years is going to be very important to this community. We want to look at that 10-year span and what we want to accomplish and what we need to do. And we have to kind of agree and move forward on that. I want Winterhaven to be the distinguished place that we can all enjoy and love, and it's our home. So we want to do as much as we can for Winterhaven and move forward.
Thank you, Tracy. William?
Sure, certainly. First off, I want to talk about people saying that we don't, have a unified opinion about things, or that there's disruption or dissent among the commission. That's just factually not true. I have in front of me the City Commission Action Report dating from October 9th of 2018 to September 23rd of 2019. There was 269 total votes, actions that were taken by the commission that I voted on. 257 of those votes were unanimous, 5-0 or 4-0 if somebody wasn't there. I was there every time. There were 6 4-1 votes, that's 2%. And there were 5 3-2 votes, that's also around 2%. So 96% of the time, the City Commission is voting unanimously. So there's no problem with some type of 911 call to City Commission land that we're having problems. We're not having problems there. The other thing that I wanted to talk about in my closing is the water. And the water is important, and it's not going to be hundreds of thousands, it's not going to be millions, it's going to be tens of millions. Water is going up. So if you were impatient about the 2.5% increase, it's going to go up. I don't know how much it's going to go up, but it's going to go up. And we're going to take care of the infrastructure, and as long as I'm there, that's going to be the primary thing that we're going to do. And that's the forefront, that and the fiber, the conduit. We're going to get our schools hooked up, hopefully. Lakeland's got all their schools hooked up to the school board down in Bartow. Fiber, high speed. And that's my goal as well here, to have that happen. And hopefully, if I'm still here, that's still what's going to happen. But thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And last but not least, Nikki.
Thank you. I'd like to first off thank everyone for coming out this morning. It means a lot to me. I'm sure it means a lot to my fellow candidates. So to answer your question, I do think working together is the main goal of being a city commissioner. If you, as a commission, and can't work with staff, we can't move forward. We become a standstill, and I think we've all seen that happen in the past. We all are a team, we all have the same goal, and that goal is to make Winterhaven the greatest city that it can be. So, as a city commissioner, I would like to be a part of that and work unanimously with the commission and staff. As far as my closing comments go, I just want to say I am extremely passionate about this city. It is my home. I hope to spend the rest of my life here. I'm proud to be born here. I'm proud to be from here. I'm glad you're all my neighbors. I'm glad these lovely people are my neighbors. And I hope I get to represent you guys on the City Commission.
Thank you, Nikki. Please give a huge round of applause for all 6 of our candidates that are here this morning. I think you can see what I meant when I said we're very fortunate this time to have 6 candidates who are very invested and informed in the Winterhaven community, and we want to thank you for the service you have already provided in many ways for our community. So Election Day is November 5th. I'm going to get on my soapbox, and this is the choir, so I'm speaking to the choir, but now you have to go out and talk to everybody else. We only have 11 to 12% of our community that votes out of our registered voters in our municipal election, which is sad for all of us in this room that are engaged citizens. So I want to encourage you to go out and share this YouTube video today, share the questionnaire that's already on the blog, make sure people know that they need to get out and vote on Election Day. And frankly, with 6 candidates, there may be a second Election Day, so in December. So we need to really make sure that we are getting as many of our citizens informed and out to vote as possible. Engagement in what is happening in our city is so important. I think we all, get so wrapped up in what's happening at the national level, and it matters, but it doesn't matter as much as what's happening every other Monday night and every week at a workshop right here in our own hometown. So I want to highly encourage you to now go out and be the ambassadors for voting.